I know we do have the sign law, but we're just going to open that in a minute, but we'll just get this. And just before we go any further, I just want to make sure anyone who turns around and gets excited, that clock is an hour fast. I don't want anybody to think we hear that. I just realized it myself.
That's why there are motions like that. Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, we received, as we've spoken about in the past, we received correspondence from the County of Rockland Department of Personnel. It states, we are pleased to inform you that the following police officers, Spanish-speaking candidate, is qualified and on the required medical, physical fitness, psychological examination, fingerprint, and also the Spanish proficiency. And his name is Daniel O. Hylas. I spoke to you in the past about this. This is a 2013 position that was budgeted, that I've asked your permission to fill, and at this time I would like to ask that you appoint Daniel O. Hylas to the position of Spanish-speaking officer full-time with an effective date of December 1st, 2014, as per your wishes.
Okay, I just want to make sure, I want to explain one thing to the job that we've done over the last, year and a half or so, of having 3 officers retire in 2013. 3 police officers have retired. We replaced 2 of them so far. This will be the 3rd replacement, as the chief has just stated, that it is a budgeted position, and it would be my honor to appoint Daniel O. Hylas as a Stony Point police officer effective December 1st of 2014.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Will we do a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Council, Mr. Vasili?
Yes.
Mr. Janice?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Monahan?
Definitely yes.
Supervisor Finn?
Yes. Congratulations, Mr. Hylas. Photographers here, hold on. Where do you want it? Over there?
Yes, why don't you take over to chief and your father?
You leave it to give you the direction.
Better go way back.
Professional. 1, 2, 3. Again. Great. Okay. Good evening.
Jim, wait, can we get mom up here? Let's go.
When you pay your high religion.
Thank you very much.
That all saved the budget? Thank you.
Mr. White just stepped out to the restroom for a moment, so we're going to give it a second, but at this time, we'll just jump right to the floor. I didn't say the budget, I said the public hearing. Okay. Yeah, the budget, Mr. White will tell him the budget just passed.
I surveyed Lee after the meeting.
Okay, the continued public hearing, which we will keep open even after today. This is for the sign law. I don't think there's much to talk about, at least I'll just make a few comments that I have right now. I'm still waiting on a few, there was a few gentlemen here last month or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, and we are expecting a few more things to come in. I've asked for photos, I've asked for information, I've asked for other towns, and I'm still awaiting that. I know I was supposed to have it by today. It may have been sent after I left my office, if I could look, but I'd really like to do a little more study on it. So I'm going to suggest that we keep the public hearing open unless someone wants to talk from the audience or someone from the board as well has anything to say. Is there anyone from the audience that has anything to say? Okay, so we're going to keep that open, continue to keep that open. So. Okay, number one is we have the planning board position coming up that when is it? This 31st of December. And I know this gentleman, excuse me, like to be put up for reappointment, I believe.
Yeah, I'll nominate, nominate Mike Puccio.
Okay.
I'll second the nomination.
Mike Puccio. There's been a motion and a second to reappoint Michael Puccio to the planning board. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number two is the zoning board of appeals, which there is a member coming up, and I'm not exactly sure. I think we're going to look for resumes right now. We're not sure if this gentleman's, we haven't received anything yet. And I will make a motion that we hold this over to the next meeting. I know.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Next, we'll table it.
We'll table this to the November 25th? No, next meeting, thank you. Number three is Number four is Letchworth redevelopment property. I believe Mr. Stock is here, our town planner.
Hello again. This is the third time I've appeared before you on the Letchworth Village site. As you recall, the first time we introduced the concept of the law to the board. We then held a special informal public hearing where we brought it to the public and received comments back from that. We discussed it again before the board. And what we're doing here is, in order to further this process, there are some procedural steps that this board has to take. They include declaring itself lead agency, classifying the action as type 1 due to its proximity to parkland and to the Palisades Parkway, which is considered a historic district. I have prepared a Part 1 environmental assessment form, which details the project attributes. The project attributes for zoning is very easy to do because essentially it is a planning or zoning action. And so you're sort of skipping through a lot of the development questions and just providing information on page 8, on page 13 of the EAF. However, I've also prepared a Part 2 of the environmental assessment form that indicates what potential adverse impacts may occur. I have identified several, and they are addressed in a Part 3 EAF. The items that were identified were visual impacts. If this is a gateway to the town, it certainly has a lot of character currently. And so what I've cited here in consideration of these impacts is the law itself has several attributes that are intended to protect against visual impact. And this has to do with limitations on the height within the current height of the existing Kirkbride Hall, maintaining views of the Kirkbride Hall, limiting development within the vicinity of Willow Grove Road. Also requiring design guidelines that require incorporation of some of the architectural themes that are prevalent throughout the Letchworth Village site. The second impact that I identified was potential impacts on historic preservation. I have provided for your consideration the fact that This particular site isn't going to be visible per se from the historic resource, which is the Palisades Parkway. Additionally, in terms of these buildings which aren't listed but are deemed eligible for listing on a state or national register, you've already saved the clubhouse. This has a active use, although it is part of the district. And the law requires the preservation of Kirkbride Hall, and it provides a mechanism that encourages the reuse of these structures adaptively by making an easier path to approval if you're going to reuse a structure rather than demolish a structure. With regard to loss of recreational resources, I have put a consideration here that any loss of recreational resources will require affirmative action by the state legislature, and in almost every case, it will require the town to provide mitigation area, at least in a one-to-one. So if you are in the position to offer a prospective developer portions of any of the recreational lands here, you will be expected to mitigate them by providing equal lands elsewhere.
They don't have to be contiguous with this, they could be elsewhere in the town.
They could, if you take obviously land from the golf course, I think it likely will be contiguous because you're going to be affecting the area of play, so you would have to probably do contiguous. But if it was, for example, this building that a developer wanted, there is a possibility to provide a senior center or other facilities elsewhere in the town.
But this building is considered recreation space?
It depends what monies you've taken to develop this building. That would have to be something that you investigate at the time that a developer was interested in developing it. If you've taken grant money from the Office of Parks, Recreation and Historic Preservation,
For the purposes of this building?
for the purposes of renovating this building, yeah, it would probably be considered recreational.
We have. That's from the state, not the PRHP.
Another impact that was identified was sky glow and the potential for sky glow to be brighter than the surrounding area. We've put in provisions in this law that require certain lighting that will be night sky friendly. Another potential impact is sharp contrast with the surrounding area. I think that one of the things we talked about is how this area has always been in sharp contrast with the surrounding community. And really, the idea is not necessarily to be conforming with what's surrounding, but to replicate what's here now. And that, again, is accomplished through the design guidelines and some of the bulk requirements. So if you agree with the assessment of impacts, I've also provided the page that the supervisor would sign as a declaration of non-significance. At this phase of the project, it is my recommendation that you forward the study, the proposed local law, this EAF, to the planning board and to Rockland County Planning for their recommendations. They will have at least 60 days to issue their Rockland County has 30 days. I believe the planning board is 60 to give you their recommendations. I'm sure they will provide them back in a much more expedited fashion. And then we would be in a position to open a public hearing on this, hopefully in December. This will be the formal public hearing where the public will have a complete accounting of the action, can give you their final recommendations. There are a few issues that were left open-ended at the last meeting with regard to whether or not to limit certain uses to the Wilbur Hall, whether or not to allow the gas station. These things the town board will have to decide at that meeting before moving ahead with the adoption of the law.
Two questions for you. And Max, you're doing a great job, and the impacts that you cite, it's a good list. Is there, you said there's a recommendation in there that nothing get built on this site that is taller than Kirkbride is presently?
We have set the height at 4 stories. And the idea was Kirkbride Hall is really 2 stories.
Right.
It's a very tall 2 stories,
Right.
with the cathedral ceilings on the second. But really it has more to do with the way the land slopes. So the land comes up pretty rapidly from Willow Grove and then plateaus out. So the idea that is if you build something behind Kirkbride, you're not going to be able to see the bottom section of that building from Willow Grove Road.
Right,
So even if you limit to 4 stories, you're never going to see the 4 stories from Willow Grove.
right.
You'll probably see 3, and depending if it goes further back, it'll be even
But
less.
this isn't a situation where, you know, we've talked a lot about the hospitality industry, where we are going to pitch this property and saying, well, you know, you build a hotel, but it can only be 4 stories tall, or it can only be 3 stories tall, or cannot be taller than the building on Kirkland, right? I mean, because that is going to significantly cut down on the ability to give a complex the number of rooms that it would need in order for it to be commercially viable, correct?
Correct. Well, the